Sometimes the strongest desires are not voiced, they are orchestrated. A woman who secretly craves you but refuses to make the first move rarely does so through confession. Instead, she communicates through her presence, and more specifically through the opportunities she creates just to be near you. And this isn't always obvious. In fact, the more she cares, the more effort she puts into making her presence seem accidental. She might show up where you are, not because she's following you, but because she pays attention to where you'll be. She may suddenly develop an interest in the places you go, the hobbies you're into, or the people you hang around. To the untrained eye, it looks casual, harmless, but beneath it lies strategy, a subconscious choreography driven by craving and the fear of exposure. She's hoping proximity might spark something real without her ever having to say a word. But there's a psychological reason for this. According to the mere exposure effect, people tend to develop a preference for things or people they are frequently exposed to. She's banking on that. If she can just be around you enough, if she can create just enough shared moments, perhaps you'll notice her, feel her energy, and take the lead she wishes she could take herself. This is especially common in women who have been taught, directly or indirectly, that initiating romantic interest is risky, even shameful. So rather than stepping forward, she drifts closer. She might become more active in group settings where you're present, volunteer for projects you're involved in, or strike up conversations that always seem to end with the two of you in the same space. She's positioning herself in your orbit, hoping you'll sense the pull of her gravitational field. But what's fascinating is how this behavior contrasts with her outward demeanor. She may still appear indifferent, unbothered, friendly, but not flirty. That's because the craving she feels is being tightly managed beneath layers of self-protection. She doesn't want to be too obvious. She wants her desire to be known, but only through the safety of plausible deniability. If you don't pick up on the pattern, she loses nothing. But if you do, she's already there, close enough for something to happen. This is why you must train your eye not just to see who's around, but to notice how they are around. Who shows up more often than chance would allow? Who seems to always be just passing by? Who creates moments of closeness under the illusion of randomness? Because what seems like coincidence might just be a silent strategy. And what seems like casual proximity could be a woman saying, "I'm here for you," without ever moving her lips. In the end, if you start recognizing these orchestrated moments, you'll realize sometimes the boldest declarations of desire are made without a single word. We often speak of attraction as something that's verbal, something declared in words or bold moves. But in truth, some of the most telling signs come not from what she says, but from what her body quietly reveals. When a woman secretly craves you, yet refuses to make the first move, her body language often becomes the first language of desire. It's involuntary, unfiltered, and it always tells the truth. This is where you need to stop listening with just your ears and start observing with emotional intelligence, because the body betrays what the mouth keeps hidden. You'll notice it in the way her eyes hold yours just a second too long, in how she glances away, then looks back when she thinks you're not paying attention. There's a rhythm in the silence between glances, a kind of dance she performs without consciously realizing it. Her physical presence shifts too. She might lean in slightly when you speak, close enough to suggest interest, but not enough to confirm it outright. Her posture may open up when you enter the room, arms uncrossed, chest forward, feet pointed in your direction. These are subtle, subconscious alignments that signal emotional openness. They aren't planned, they're felt. And then there's mirroring. Pay close attention to whether she subtly reflects your gestures. If you sip your drink and she does the same. If you adjust your posture and she follows suit. This is not imitation, it's unconscious synchronization. Mirroring happens when someone feels psychologically connected or wants to create rapport. In her case, it's her body trying to bond with you before her mind gives it permission. But there's a twist. Just like her presence can feel like a quiet pursuit, her body language might fluctuate. One day she seems completely engaged, eyes locked, leaning in, smiling effortlessly. The next, she's distant, guarded, almost cold. This is not confusion, it's conflict. She's torn between the craving to connect and the fear of being exposed. Her gestures are speaking louder than she intends, and when she realizes it, she pulls back to protect her pride, her past, or her emotional safety. This hot and cold behavior confuses many men. But if you're tuned in, you'll recognize it as emotional vulnerability trying to surface, then quickly retreating. It's not manipulation, it's hesitation wrapped in longing, and it's as real as any declaration spoken out loud. So you must train yourself to read beyond words, because if you only listen to what she says, you'll miss what she means. A woman may never admit she craves you, but her eyes might, her posture might, her silent gestures might be the most honest conversation she'll ever have with you. The body speaks the truth long before the heart feels safe to confess it. And if you can understand that language, you'll hear the desire she was too afraid to say out loud. One of the most revealing signs that a woman secretly craves you, but is unwilling to make the first move, is how she reacts when you give your attention to someone else. She won't openly express it, of course. She's too guarded for that. But jealousy has a peculiar way of slipping through even the strongest self-control. It shows up not in confrontation, but in subtle changes. In her tone, her energy, her sudden withdrawal. She becomes quiet, different. And if you're paying close attention, you'll sense it. This kind of jealousy is not loud, it's not dramatic, it's disguised, often behind sarcasm, a passive comment, or even a total silence that wasn't there before. For example, she might seem completely fine one moment, but when you mention another woman's name, especially with even a hint of admiration, her face slightly tenses, her smile fades for just a beat, and her responses become clipped or emotionally flat. She might even pull back for the rest of the interaction, seemingly for no reason. Why does this happen? Because she's emotionally invested, but emotionally uncommitted, at least outwardly. She wants you, but she can't own that want publicly. So when she sees you showing attention elsewhere, it creates an inner conflict. Her heart reacts, but her pride refuses to let it show. That's why her jealousy isn't explosive, it's internalized, it's managed, but it always leaks through the cracks. And there's a deeper psychological layer here. When someone desires what they don't feel entitled to express, it often turns inward. They experience envy not just of the person you're engaging with, but also of your ability to connect freely. To her, that openness is dangerous, vulnerable, so rather than match it, she guards herself, and in doing so reveals that she cares far more than she lets on. Now, don't mistake this kind of jealousy for immaturity. It's not always toxic. In many cases, it's a signal of unresolved desire, emotion that doesn't yet feel safe to surface. The key is to read it in context. Is she normally warm and talkative but suddenly distant when you're speaking about another woman? Does she retreat in moments where you seem emotionally unavailable to her, even if nothing was said directly? Those shifts are not random. They are responses rooted in craving, masked by restraint. So what should you do when you sense this? Don't call it out aggressively. Don't use it to provoke her. Instead, use it as insight. It tells you there's something there, something unspoken that's quietly trying to express itself. Respect the depth behind the silence and respond with presence rather than pressure. Because in the end, a woman who secretly craves you may never reach out with her hands. But when jealousy flickers across her face like a shadow passing through sunlight, what she's showing you is that her emotions are no longer just private thoughts. They've become reactive, personal, alive. And once a woman's silence starts to react to your absence, her craving has already crossed from hidden to undeniable. One of the most underestimated signs that a woman secretly craves, yet refuses to show it directly, is how she remembers the things you barely recall saying. Not the obvious things, not the surface-level compliments or rehearsed stories, but the small details you shared in passing. The fragments, the vulnerable moments that felt insignificant when you said them, but somehow stuck with her, like fingerprints on glass. This is not coincidence. It's not politeness. It's a reflection of where her attention truly lives. Because when we crave someone in silence, we don't just hear them, we study them. We internalize their words, their tone, their pauses. She stores these moments like clues, constructing a quiet emotional bond that, in her mind, feels deeply personal, even if to you it felt casual. You might mention your favorite childhood meal once, and she remembers it weeks later. You casually express your frustration about something, and later she brings it up, not to fix it, but to show she noticed. That's the point. She's tracking the undercurrents of your life. Even when you think no one is really listening, she is. Not because she's nosy, but because she's emotionally invested. Psychologically, this kind of memory retention signals deep cognitive engagement. When we care about someone, our brains give higher priority to information related to them. It's how emotional attachment works. Her mind is tagging your words with emotional significance. She might even remember things you have forgotten, not because she has a photographic memory, but because you hold weight in her internal world. But here's what makes this more interesting. She's not doing this for recognition. She's not collecting these details to show off later or to earn praise. She's doing it because craving, when it's suppressed, becomes obsessive in quiet ways. The more she resists expressing her desire outwardly, the more intensely it builds inwardly. And in that internal space, every detail becomes sacred. Now contrast that with someone who's merely polite or mildly interested. They listen to respond. They catch the headlines of your conversation, but they don't remember the footnotes. A woman who secretly craves you listens to feel. She listens to connect, even if that connection never becomes a conversation. So when she brings up something you said weeks ago or recalls a minor preference you expressed once, don't dismiss it as coincidence. It's intimacy wrapped in subtlety. Her mind is reflecting her heart's position, even if her words never do. In the end, attention is the purest currency of desire. And when a woman invests her focus in remembering what you barely meant to reveal, it's not just memory, it's meaning. She may never say she craves you, but the way she listens proves she already does. One of the most emotionally complex signs that a woman secretly craves you, but won't make the first move, is this. She initiates small talk, starts the conversation, opens the door slightly, and then pulls back. She gives you just enough to feel her warmth, her interest, her emotional availability, and then suddenly shifts. It can leave you wondering if you imagined the connection or misread her energy. But this isn't confusion. It's self-preservation in motion. See, when a woman desires you deeply but refuses to admit it, whether because of fear, past wounds, or cultural conditioning, she often engages in a push and pull dynamic. She reaches out in safe, non-threatening ways. A casual "how's your day?" a playful comment, a shared meme. These are not meaningless gestures. They are emotional feelers, small, controlled doses of vulnerability. They allow her to test the water without diving in. But as soon as she senses that her desire might become too visible, or worse, unreciprocated, she retreats. She ghosts the conversation for a day or two. She becomes dry, neutral, or disinterested. Not because her feelings have changed, but because your response triggered her defenses. Maybe you didn't respond fast enough. Maybe you seemed distracted. Or maybe you simply mirrored her casual tone, unaware that beneath it was something much deeper. And just like that, she's back behind the wall. Psychologically, this is rooted in a very human paradox. We long to be seen, but fear what might happen if we are. Craving makes her bold, but fear keeps her guarded. So she plays this emotional tug-of-war with herself. Every message sent is a risk. Every reply is weighed against her fear of rejection, embarrassment, or emotional vulnerability. That's why this kind of woman often gives you a glimpse of intimacy, only to shut the door just as you begin to approach it. To the unaware, it might look like she's not serious, but in truth, she's probably never been more emotionally serious in her life. Her restraint isn't a lack of interest, it's a reflection of how much she feels. And for a woman who's used to protecting her heart, even small talk can be a big deal. What does this mean for you? It means you need to become emotionally literate, able to see beyond words and patterns, able to interpret emotional rhythm. If she shows up and pulls away, ask yourself, is she inconsistent or is she scared? Is she playing games or is she managing vulnerability the only way she knows how? Because sometimes when a woman quietly craves you, her first instinct isn't to pursue, it's to protect. She wants connection, but she fears exposure. And that fear makes her dance between openness and distance like it's the only way to survive desire. So if she starts the conversation and then suddenly stops, understand this: the pullback is not a rejection. It's a sign that the craving is real, and the cost of showing it feels dangerously high. There's a subtle yet unmistakable sign that a woman craves you but won't admit it, not in words, not in confession, but in the way she supports and uplifts you when she thinks no one is watching. You will notice it in the encouragement she gives during your low moments, in the way she silently celebrates your wins, even if she's not directly involved. Her investment in your progress becomes deeply personal, though she may never label it as love or desire. To her, it's safer to give from the sidelines than to step into the spotlight of emotional vulnerability. When a woman feels something for you, but isn't ready to confront it, because of fear, emotional history, or the belief that the man must initiate, she channels that energy into acts of quiet devotion. It's not grand gestures or loud declarations. It's in the way she shares something she knows will help you. It's the way she checks in on you when no one else does, or stays behind after a group conversation to see how you really feel. That emotional attentiveness is her way of being near you without breaking her protective code. Philosophically speaking, this kind of behavior reflects what we might call unspoken loyalty, a bond that's not defined by a label, not clarified by words, yet undeniably felt. It speaks to a truth many overlook. Real craving is not always expressed through pursuit. Sometimes it shows up in service, in emotional labor, in presence that asks for nothing in return. But the cost of that silence? Deep emotional fatigue, because every act of support comes with a question she won't dare ask out loud. Does he see me too? This kind of hidden desire also speaks to the feminine instinct to nurture what she values. If she cares about you, she'll pour into you in ways that don't always look romantic but carry romantic weight. And yet if she's protecting her pride or afraid of misinterpretation, she'll downplay her own efforts. It's nothing, she'll say. I just thought you might need this. But it's not nothing. It's everything. It's attention turned into action. It's desire hidden beneath generosity. Now here's the mistake many men make. They overlook these moments because they're subtle. They miss the love language that isn't spoken. They chase the loud, flashy, flirtatious signals and ignore the quiet ones that actually point to depth. But emotional maturity requires discernment. And if you want to truly understand when a woman is craving you silently, start paying attention to who shows up for you, not just when it's easy, but when it's emotionally costly. Because the woman who supports your growth in silence isn't just being kind. She's expressing a deeper connection. She's giving you the best parts of herself without asking for recognition. And that's not just a sign of affection. That's a sign of soul-level interest. In the end, the clearest form of desire is often not in her words, but in her willingness to see you win, even when it hurts not to say why she cares.